ask any questions in the chat as we go along as well. Nikki, have you got access to the chat this time? No?
I don't think so.
No, so I'll try and keep on top of it, and if there's anything that I can't answer, then I'll ask Nikki either during the session or at the end. Okay, so I'll just hand over to you now, Nikki. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you, Julia. Right, good morning, everyone. So my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants at Just2Easy, and we are going to be looking at using Just2Easy in the nursery stroke early years classroom. We'll dive straight into it. Just to highlight the objectives for this session, we are going to be doing a Just2Easy overview in terms of accessing, logging in, and easy access for you and your pupils. We're going to maybe have a think about effective use of My Files and Pupil Files, the teacher tools, so using Just2Easy for observations, tracking progress through J2 Review, and the parent portal, which I know will probably be of interest to many of you. And I'm also going to highlight some library and teaching resources. If we get chance, depending on how the time pans out, I may offer a JIT overview, which is our infant toolkit, and just highlight some of the key tools that we have within that. And I'll also be running a Q&A session at the end. As Julia said, if you do have any questions throughout the session, please just pop those in the chat. Julia's pretty good at answering most of those questions, and any questions she can't ask, she'll relay onto me either during the session or at the end. And then I'm also going to signpost you in the direction of any further support and help that you might need. Now, first off, how do we access Just2Easy? So it is a cloud-based system. So you just need a device with an internet connection, and you can access your content and also your pupils' content. It works on any device, and it's based around an easy drag and drop cloud file storage system called your My Files. So much like your Google Drive or your OneDrive, our version is called My Files. Now, your My Files has unlimited capacity, so you don't need to worry about deleting content to make room. And any files that you add into your My Files can be shared and collaborated with other users, classes, schools, or worldwide. Now, in terms of logging in, you do have free access through Glow, and that will be for the next 2 years at least. And we are featured on the Glow Launchpad, so you'll find a J2E tile there. There is also the option to log in via j2e.com. And when you land on our logging in page, you'll notice the RM Unify button. And you can click that and use your Glow credentials to log in that way. So quite easy, quick, simple. You just need that one login that you're already using. Now I'm just going to highlight the Launchpad. So when you do log in, this is where you will land. It's nice and colourful, icon based. As you can see, your My Files is always that first tile. So you and your students quickly learn where your content is that you've created and saved. It's saved within your My Files area. Just also to highlight that we also have a help tile. So should you want to know any more about any of the tools, just open the help tile, add a question, add a keyword. For example, maybe you want to know more about J2 data. Just type in J2 data and that will bring up a number of different articles. Now, logging in for your students, you may want to use this with your students. You may just want to use this as an evidencing tool, so that's entirely up to you. We do offer the option of pupil QR code login, so this can make that login process much less painful because they can just scan these QR codes and it logs them directly and they don't need a username, they don't need a password. Now, I know there are a few issues as we go sort of preschool stage where they don't have Glow login. So Julia does have a solution for you, which we will talk about at the end of the session. But if you are working with students that already have a Glow login, you can generate these QR codes for them to use instead of logging in. So to do that, we're going to go to the dashboard. So off my Launchpad, your dashboard should be one of these last tiles. And if I open that up, This will open up the dashboard. So this is an admin only tool. So it's just for teachers. Only teachers have access to this. Don't worry too much about this, sort of all of this just yet. But if we go to manage users or classes, they both take you to a very similar place. You'll have this QR code button here. And if I open up the classes tab, you'll see there's also a QR code button here. So when I click that QR code, it's going to ask me to select a class. So I'm going to select my early years class, and it's going to be 3 different options. Now we are going to link back to the parent link codes in a second, but this is the one that I would recommend that you use with your younger students. It's called Generate User Login Codes. When I click that, it generates a QR code per pupil. So these are really easy to use. If you're not familiar with QR codes, we just open up a device, open up the camera app, scan that QR code, and give us a little link. So you click that link and it logs them straight in. So they land straight onto their launch pad. So as I said, no need for a username, no need for a password. I've lost many hours of my teaching life just trying to get students logged into a website that I want them to use. So hopefully that will help with that login process for you and your students. Now, a lot of the things that I'm showing today, this is very much sort of a chalk and talk presentation, I'm afraid, just because the amount of content that we've got to get through. I know I ran through that really quickly, but there are videos on our YouTube channel that will run you through that process. So don't worry too much if you didn't take in all of that information. Please just look at our YouTube channel and that will give you that video to follow along. We're going to dive straight into observations. I know this is a big part of evidencing for the early years. And there are a number of different solutions that we have on offer through Just2Easy. Now, we already have pre-made observation sheets ready to use in the library, and you can also import or create your own observations using the My Files area. So I'm just going to showcase that initially, and then I will show you the observation sheet we have ready for you to use. So I'm going to open up my Files, which is here, and that will open like this. So this will showcase all of your documents as we sort of scroll down. So it saves in reverse chronological order, so your most recent documents will be at the top. But we have this drop box over here. So what I can do, I've got an observation sheet ready to go. So if you already have a pro forma that you're familiar with using and you would like to use it in Just2Easy, you can. So I can just drag this from my hard drive onto this Dropbox. If I let go, that is now added that is a Word document, so that's added that, and that is ready to use if I wanted to. So I can click that and I can start using this. I can start typing inside of this Word document if I wanted to. So there we go. That's one option for you should you wish to use that. The other options that we have got, you can create your own observation sheet. Now, my preference personally, and I feel that the easiest way of documenting observations is to use a tool that we have called J2E5. Now, we haven't got very much time to go through this in a huge amount of depth, but we have got some training sessions booked later in the academic year where we go through how to create resources for you and your students. The J2E5 is here, and the template that I've got in the library is made out of J2E5, so I won't worry too much. But J2E5 is brilliant because we can click anywhere and we can add in text, for example. So let's have date of observation. There we go. I can add in boxes. So I've got my shape tool over here. So I'm just going to change the colours. And I can add in a box there. I'm going to go back over here. I can add in photos. Let's drag. So if I double click, that's going to give me the option to move or edit things. I can resize. I can drag that into that box. And I want to have name of observer. for example. Okay. Now, what I will say is if you are making your own observations, it's best if we lock the pro forma to the page. Now, the reason for that is because if I click on this box, it's going to give me the option to move it. If I double click it, it's going to give me the option to sort of edit that text or move it. And I don't really want that. I want all this set in stone and people to just be able to add to it. So what I can do, if I click and drag and highlight all of those, I've got the option over here to lock to the page. So that now means none of this can be moved. Okay, so I can add text on there if I want to. You can share this with colleagues who might want to use this. So to save, I'm going to click the save button up here. So I'm going to have observation. I'm going to add in a random number because I have quite a few observation sheets saved. And I'm going to click save. So that has saved into my file. So just to show you, that has saved there. Now, if I did want my colleagues to be able to use any of these files, so for example, this Word document or this pro forma that I've just created, I've got, as I hover over these pieces of work, that little green circle with the white eye. So I can click on that green circle and I've got this option to share. So now I can share with anybody in school. So if I use this, I'm just going to zoom in just so you can see this little double arrow button here. If I click that, that gives me all the different options for sharing in my school. So if this was maybe a learning activity for your students, you could share with your class. If this was planning or the observation sheet, we can share with an individual user. So if I hover over users, I've then got all the users in school. So for example, I can share with Mr. Cameron if he was my co-teacher. And I can share with multiple users. So I could share with another teacher. So let's have a look. I'm going to share that with Mary, for example. Now, if you've shared by mistake or you'd like to take away those sharing permissions, I can just press that cross there. Now, just to show you, I'm going to share with a pupil just so you can see the sharing process. So I'm going to share with my class. Obviously, you wouldn't share an observation with your class at this point, but just to show you where you would find that if it has been shared with you, I'm logged in as my pupil. So when she logs in, so if this was a pupil or a teacher, anybody that's had content shared with them can access it through the shared files area, which is here. Okay, now at this point, what I would recommend is you tick this list files box, because that will show you all of the content that's been shared with you. It doesn't matter how it's been shared. And there you can see that's that observation sheet there. So I can open that up. Because it's shared in J2E5, it opens in a view mode. So if I want to make any changes to this, I can go to edit. So now I can start typing on this. So I could say 18th of the 9th, 2023. Say it's Nikki. And this is why I would recommend that we use J2E5, because it's really easy to add in things like videos, photos and sounds. So to add any photos in J2E5, you've got the pictures tab up here, and that's going to open into lovely. That's going to open up into my files area. So if you have added any photos into your My Files, you can drag those in. You've also got the option to take photographs straight in there. So we've got our camera option. It's going to ask for permission, so just click allow. There we go. There's me again. That's it. And then I can add that to the page there. The photos are really easy to resize. You can move them around really easily. It's less restricted than the Word document pro formas, and that is why I recommend that you use J2E5. It would be my personal preference. Other things that we can add in, things like sound. So I've got this multimedia button up here. I can record sound. It's going to just ask for permission, so click allow. Trying to think of I don't know. I'm just going to record something. Lottie played really well with her peers today. And there we go. And then I can add that sound to my page and add that in there. So we can add multiple layers of evidence in there. Then when you're finished editing, we can click save. And that has saved now. So that will save into their My Files. So if that was a teacher, that would save into your My Files. If it was a pupil, their content can be accessed through the pupil files then. So if they had created an activity, for example, if that was an activity that they'd completed, that would save into the pupil files. So that is how you would share an observation with a colleague. They can make any edits to it and they can save. Now that template will always be available in that shared files area for your colleague to use. Alternatively, they could have just saved a blank copy of that and that would have saved into their My Files area. Now I'm just going to have a look at this pro forma that we have ready for you to use. This was created for an Aberdeenshire nursery on their request, so a lot of the content will be useful. So this is found in the library. So the library is pre-made content. So if I open it up, there are, I think, over 1,700 resources now. The majority of them are made by the team, but there are quite a few teachers now that are submitting things to the library to be used. So just to give you an idea of some of the content that we've got, I'm going to search for nursery. And there we go. We've got some PT patterns work, some colouring in, some number writing work, draggable resources. So lots and lots for you to have a look at when you get a chance. But I'm going to search for observation. There we go. And hit enter. And here we go. There's two for you to choose from. I think this is the one that we created for the Aberdeenshire Nursery. So I'm just going to open this one. So when I click on that resource, I've got some instructions. And then I can click on this activity here, and that has opened that pro forma for you. So if you do like the look of this, what I would do is, again, I would save this blank template. So we can click save, and that will save into my Files area. So that's pulled that down from the library into the My Files area. So if I just open up my Files, there you go, you can see that nursery sheet is ready to be used. Okay, anything that you do like in the library, you can star it. Now I can't star this because I've made this, but just to give you an example, let's click on Mrs. Let's untick that. This repeating pattern, for example, maybe I quite like that to use at a later time. I can star this. This will add this to the liked resources area. So every user will have a liked resources area. It just makes it a lot quicker and easier to find those resources that you've already seen that you think would be useful that you can use at a later date. Now, if you do so for example, maybe the observation. If you do think this is useful and you want to share it with a colleague, for example, we have the option to share. Now this is slightly different because it shares within the library itself. Is it going to let me? Let me search for teacher. She is in the Northern Ireland. Now that's interesting. It doesn't let you share with a teacher. I didn't realise that. Okay. That's one to let the tech team know. So you can't share teacher to teacher in the library, but you would be able to let them know that there is an observation sheet for them to use in the library if you wanted to. Now, of course, if you find something that you like that you want to share with a teacher, you could then save it into your My Files, and then you can share that way. So we could share with Mary by clicking on that double arrow, going to my user, and I can share that with Mary. So now Mary, my co-teacher, has a copy of that in her shared files area ready for her to use. I'm just going to close down some of these tabs. Okay. In terms of filling out an observation, The process that I personally would use is I would keep that template in my files, for example, so this one here. And if I wanted to fill that out for a student, I would copy that template first. So I go to my green circle and I would go to copy and then right click and paste. And then I would start filling that out. So if I click on that, I can start adding content into this now. So if I go to edit and add in again some content, I'm going to add in a picture. There we go, there's my daughter at nursery. And I'm going to add Lottie played nicely in the water. And there we go. Obviously, you would add a lot more content into that observation than I'm going to. But what I would do is I would save that. I would maybe save with something that sets it apart. So we say 18th of September, if I could spell that properly. There we go. And I would click save. Now that is saved into my files area. You can see there. Now I think some schools are a little bit trying to think of the word. Some schools don't like adding things into a pupil's file until it has been checked. So I would leave this in your My Files until it's been quality assured. Once you're ready to add that into a pupil's folder or a pupil's file, as we call it, we can move this quite quickly and easily. And to do that again, you're going to go to that green circle and we've got this option to move to. And then you've got this transfer file to another user in your school. So we can click that and then you just find your student. So she's in class 1 and that has now moved that to Lottie's folder. Now a little caveat to that, if you are thinking of using the parent portal, anything you add into the pupil files is visible to the parents. You can switch that off if you want to, but it means they can't access any of their child's work at all. So that is a school's preference, whatever you want to go with. And we will explore that a little more shortly when we look at the parent portal. So just to show you where that's gone, each pupil will have a pupil's file within this area here. There's also a tab off the Launchpad. So this is a great way of sort of keeping track of what your students are creating. If they are using JIT and saving any content, you will find it within the pupils file area. So I can click class 1 and I can click Lottie's file and there is that observation that we have just completed. So you can open that up and you can see what's happened in that observation. You can see as we sort of scroll down, it saves all of her work. So she's got a write document, a pictogram, you can add photos directly into it. You can also record sounds directly into it. So it is quite a robust digital portfolio for you and your students. Now, if you did want to tag that against any progression framework that you're using, we do have the option, and that is done here. And that is our J2 review tool. So if I open that up, now we have a number of frameworks. Because you're accessing from Glow, yours will automatically open within the Curriculum for Excellence. You do also have the option to load personal frameworks that you might be using just as a school or as a year group. So we can load those for you. So if that is something that you're interested in, just take down our email address at the end of this session and we can get that linked up for you quite easily. So I'm going to use the Curriculum for Excellence and I'm going to say this might be, I don't know what she's doing. Let's go for literacy, for example, and she's in the early stages. So I could say she's meeting that target and maybe meeting this target and, I don't know, meeting this target for argument's sake. So there we go. So you can see because it's hit orange, those are the targets that particular piece of work or that piece of evidence has met. You'll also notice there are numbers in the corner of those, so that shows me how many other pieces of work, including this one, have hit that particular target. So it's a great way of keeping tabs on whether they're working towards having met that target as consistently. If I click that number, it's also going to show me the other pieces of work that have hit that target as well. So I can see there's 2 pieces of work now that have supported that target. Now, the last thing we can do in our pupil files is we can offer a learning conversation. So this is a great way of offering maybe some secondary information. Maybe you could write some further steps, for example, or some audio feedback. So if I click this learning conversation, this is kind of a two-way, I say two-way, it's a 3-way dialogue between you, the pupil, and the parents will also have access to this as well. So sometimes this is a nice way of entering into a conversation with the parents as well. So I could say, Lottie, let's say, well done, Lottie. You worked hard in today's session, for example. Now, obviously, a lot of your students will not be at a reading level, so you do have the option to record audio instead if you wanted to give them some feedback. You can also take photographs straight into this, so maybe they've done some rough work somewhere, maybe some mark making. You can take photos and add that. So there we go. So that is using existing proformas, if you wanted to drag them in, PDFs, Word documents, or creating your own in J2E5. We've looked at using the proforma that's already in operation in the library. We've also looked at tracking progress using J2 Review. Now, the parent portal, I'm sure a lot of you are interested in this aspect that we have to offer. So the parent portal allows you to communicate with parents. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the parent view of the parent portal, just to give you an understanding of what it is they see. So this is my parent, they're logged in, and this is what they'll see. They've got their 2 children at that school. They can click in their child, and we can see this is Lottie's account. For older students, it would highlight their homework tasks that are outstanding. Obviously, that's probably not something you're going to be doing in nursery, but may well be appropriate for your colleagues further up the school. It will also highlight how many stars they've achieved that week. So that is a behaviour reward system. We're not going to look at this today, but that's worth looking at if you want to sort of reinforce positive behaviour. The parent can see the child files. Now, as I said, this can be switched off, but this is a link to the My Files area. So if I click that, there you go. You can see all of the content. There is that observation that we did on Lottie earlier, and that learning conversation, so the parent can see that learning conversation. And they can look at any of these pieces of work if they wanted to. They've also got the option to upload files on behalf of their child. So maybe they're doing some work at home, maybe they're, I don't know, exploring books together and they've taken a video. So they have that option to upload files. And also the class blog, they have access to J2 Webby. Okay, so that is the parent portal from that aspect. Now, to connect parents to the parent portal, this is also done through Dashboard. Parents won't have access to the parent portal unless they are invited either by QR code or by email. So this is a secure process. So if you choose not to use this, don't worry, they can't access it unless they're invited. But if you do wish to use it, it's done through the Dashboard. So we're going to open that up. So Dashboard again is found here. Now, just to highlight, off the setup page, there are a number of different options with regards to the parent portal, and they are found here. Teachers are allowed to message parents. As an authority, you have decided that parents are not enabled to message back. So it is a one-way messaging service. If you don't wish your parents to be able to see the child's My Files, all of that work that we've just created, you can switch that off by ticking that box there. Okay, so that is an option for you there. You also have a bit of a safety net in terms of messaging. So your J2 message log is there. So that will download all messages sent. You need to make people aware that that is there. So you need to make teachers aware before they start using this, that all messages are logged. Okay, so that is just a bit of a safety net there for you. So in terms of inviting parents and getting them linked up to the parent portal, that is done through the Parents tab here. So when we open that up, we have each class. We can see whether they've got a parent that has linked up. So we can see there's only 5 families so far that have decided to connect to the parent portal. I can scroll down and I can see which parents are linked. You also retain the autonomy to be able to delete or rescind any access. And you can also delete access to QR codes as well. So either the parent completely or the QR code on its own. So we have only just introduced the QR code links. So that was released last week. So I think you are the first the first webinar that I have showcased this to. So you do have both options. You can invite parents by sending an email. So that can be done by just clicking. So for example, David, we click this box that says invite, and you can type your email, or their email, should I say, in that box and click invite. Okay, so the parents will receive an email invite. They have to click on the link. It just asks for a few little details, email address, their name. They have to tick a box agreeing to certain terms and conditions and setting a password, and they then have access to that child's file. Okay, so that is one option, email invites. The other and potentially easier option is the create a QR code. So we would choose our class out of the list. So class 1, that's my early years class. And I click that create QR code. And the same as we did with our logins for our students, this will generate a QR code per student. So you could then give each parent access to this QR code. So again, a little caveat with that. Just be careful with the QR codes because you don't have much authority about that being shared. So I think the general consensus for Aberdeenshire was this maybe should be something that is kept by the teacher and that parents could scan whilst staying in the teacher's possession. So for example, maybe you might want to host a parent portal evening where they come in, they scan this, and they are then given access. So that just means you know that it's only the default parent that has access to that account. Okay, if you do choose to send this home, you will be able to see who has linked up. So let me just open that again. Here we go. So go to my parents tab. You will see which parent has linked. So if maybe it is a different parent or someone that you don't recognise that is linked up. So for example, maybe Charlotte White, I'm not sure that is a default parent, for example, that I want having access to. You do have the option to remove their permission and remove their account. And you do also have the option, maybe I know that Nicola Kimball's linked to Lottie now. I can delete that QR code. So you do retain some power over that. You can stop that QR code from working once you know the correct parent is linked up. Okay, so that is how you would link your parents up to the portal. And as we sort of mentioned earlier, that is what they will be met with. Now, on a side note, they will need either an email invite or a QR code per child at the school. So if you are within a nursery setting that is within a school, you may want to consider siblings being linked up. So they would have either an email invite or a QR code per child. So they would need to scan each QR code and they would need to click on the link in each email invite. And they only need to register once. Okay, so then subsequent children, they would just log in and that would link them all up. So it's quite a seamless process. And that is the parent view. So the one that we're really going to focus on today is the messaging. Okay. And the messaging is done within J2 Message. As I said earlier, it is a one-way messaging service for Aberdeenshire. So it is almost like a sort of a notice board as such. Your parents won't be able to message back. So that is done through J2 Message, which can be found here off your Launchpad. Now, this is a fabulous tool. And in fact, it's a great teaching tool. I know it won't be appropriate for your younger students, but certainly for colleagues teaching older students, it's a great way of teaching appropriate online conversations and communication. But for messaging parents, you would select the class that you wish to message. So, for example, class 4 or class 3, there's no connected parents, as you can see. But my class 1, you can see there is message all parents and carers. So I would then click that button and I can see who I'm messaging in the top left. So that makes it very clear that I'm messaging the parents and carers of class 1. And I can type my message. So I could say, I don't know, school, we are hosting a school fundraiser tomorrow, for example. You have certain options here. You can use speech to text. If you want to do this really quickly, you can dictate it. You can also add attachments. So if I click that, that's going to take me to my files area. So we could, for example, maybe send home. I'm just going to send this picture just for an example. And you can send multiple files, okay, and click done. Now just be aware that this is going to all parents and carers, so just be careful about what you're attaching. And there we go. I can hit the send button and that now has sent with that attachment for them. If you wanted to message a parent or carer of an individual student, that can be done at the top here. So I can click here. That's going to show me all my students. Now, if you're in a small school, that's not a problem. If you're in a huge school, or you've got some schools that have got 800, 900 pupils, you can search for their name. This will be their username, so just be aware of that. And there we go. I can message that parent individually. So I could say, Lottie, I don't know, wasn't feeling too well today. And I can send that. And that's gone directly to that parent. Now, if you have more than one parent linked up, you will have the option to message them, but it will be individual messages. Okay. So to give you an idea of what that looks like, if I just refresh my page, you can see as I'm logged in as a parent now, my parent has 3 messages. So if we can click that, it will show the parent which message boards have messages. So I've got one from individually from Miss Kimball and also from class 1. And there we go. I can see those messages, parents' evening, and there is that attachment. My parent can open that attachment and view it in full. And they can select that message and see Lottie wasn't feeling too well today. Now, you won't have option for the parents to message back. So just make that very clear. They won't have that option for reply to user. Okay. Yes, I think that was everything I need to tell you with message. So I'm just going to close this down. There we go. Okay. So that is messaging all parents or carers or individual parents, and just going over the message process itself. Now, in terms of capturing evidence, it may be that you just want to add in pictures to a student's file or sounds or videos. And we can do this in a few different ways, actually. So I'm going to go over one way, and then I'm going to go over the tiles that we've got available on the Launchpad. So one way that we can do this is we can actually go into the pupils file directly. We can open up our class 1. Let's open up Lottie. And at the top of the page here, you have the option to upload. So maybe they've created some content elsewhere, or you've saved an observation using something else. You can upload that, so it's in her pupil files. And there's also this option for take a photo. So we can take a photograph straight in. So you would click the photograph, there we go, and click OK. And that has then added into Lottie's file. Let's just refresh that page, and there is that photograph. Now the other option, so this is brand new again, we released this month, are these 3 tiles here. So you've got video, camera, sound. So we'll just go with sound. They all work in exactly the same way. So if I show you one, you should know you should be able to use the others because they work exactly the same. So if I click on sound, obviously if it was a video, you would hit the record. If it was a photograph, you would hit the shutter. And then I'm going to record some audio. This is Lottie reading out loud in class. And there we go. Now it will by default say, do you want to save to Miss Kimball, your account? You can change that by clicking on that name, and then we can highlight which student this links to. So we know that it links to Lottie. Now at the moment, you can only link to one pupil, which isn't how we want it to work. So the tech team are currently working on this. You will at some point very soon be able to highlight multiple students and click OK, and that will then send to multiple students' accounts. So that is coming. So please bear with us whilst the tech geniuses figure out how to do that. And then you do have the option here to rename. So for example, let's rename, I don't know, Lottie reading out loud. And then we can click save, and that has saved to Lottie's account now. So just to show you, so if I go again back to my pupil files and my class 1 and Lottie's account, there is Lottie reading out loud. If that was a video, it would be a video. If it was a photograph, it would be a photograph, obviously. So that will load directly into your pupil's account. So that's a great way of capturing evidence of them doing things out and about. Other things that we can do, child created content. So this is a great tool called JIT. It stands for Just2Easy Infant Toolkit. So I'm going to spend about 5 minutes just giving an overview of some of these, because they are fantastic tools for the students to use either as a supported activity or independently if they are working to that sort of level. So when I open JIT, it's a lovely icon-based tool. It is actually 8 tools within the same toolkit. So some of the best ones to use for you and your students are going to be Paint, which is the beginnings of sort of drawing and creating illustrations, diagrams, or I don't know, recounting what they did in an activity, or thematic paintings. I will showcase that a bit more in a second. Turtle, which is the beginnings of coding. So a great way of moving forward any sort of computational thinking activities if you're doing maybe any Bebot work. This is a great way of moving this on screen. It's a great way of developing directional language. You have your sprite here. And in its most basic form, we just use these arrows to maneuver around this particular template. So there we go. We can add things in. So for example, maybe you want pen down, and you can also debug things. So we can move these algorithms. So we can move that instruction to the top and maybe move this right to the middle. And then we can hit play and see how that's changed the outcome. And there we go. We've got a sprite that is tracking a line around the page. You have your save button in the top left, so any content that your pupils create, as long as they're logged into their account, they can save that, and that will save as evidence within their file. So that is something to have a look at. We've also got pictograms. This might be something nice to develop the numeracy skills. There are a number of different templates. So all of the JIT tools load with that kind of prompting you to either choose a background or a template. And we have some common pictogram options there for you. So maybe you want to document how people get to school or nursery. It is a locked template at the moment. You can unlock that if you want to. You can tick edit and you can add a box or take boxes away if you wanted to. So maybe, I don't know, you've got a child that arrives by helicopter or horse. So you can add extra boxes in there if you wanted to, and you can change these boxes. So maybe I want a different car, so I can choose the clip art. I've got different libraries that I can choose from. So maybe I want a green car instead. So I can, let's draw over the top of that, make it white so it doesn't stamp. And I can highlight that car to go in there. So I can change that template. And then my students can either come up to the board if they want to and document how they got to school. Unfortunately, most of them usually come by car, don't they? And I can hit save and that will save into my files. Now, obviously, you can share these templates with your students. So you could create a template, save that into your My Files, and then share in the same way that we did earlier by clicking that green circle. So that is pictogram. I'm just going to go back to paint because it's one of my favourites. We've got lots and lots of different pictures for them to use. There are some clip art backgrounds. There's also some really nice colouring in activities. Transparent background. This mouse is ridiculously sensitive, so I'm just going to scroll through some of these. We've got some seasonal backgrounds. Maybe you want to create a Christmas card, so you could do that using JIT paint. We've got some colouring in, got some ocean, beach, sea. And in fact, I might showcase some of these colouring activities because they're quite nice. And this is a great way of developing your students' digital skills, maybe using touch screens. And they can do this using the fill tool. So for example, let's give her a lovely yellow dress. You can click anywhere on her dress to add in some paint. And there we go. So great for your mouse skills. So there we go. And then we can hit save. And that's going to save into their My Files. The other thing that they can do is they can record audio. So this is a nice linked audio soundbite. So it's a nice way of students describing what they did in a particular activity, maybe reflecting on their learning. Just a great way of capturing sort of secondary evidence, as it were. So you can do that by hitting that record button. We would hit record. This is a colouring in activity that I did in my lesson. And there we go, and that will link that sound. And if I hit save, that has linked that whole sound there. Okay. So have a look at JIT. I have gone through that at a fairly quick speed, but just because I want to go ahead on looking at the library again. There are lots of videos again on our YouTube channel, so please have a look at those. We're also running a central training session in a few weeks about looking at JIT in a lot more depth. So you might want to join us for that. That is a free training session. Right, teacher created resources. You can create your own resources. You can add existing PDF worksheets that you might be using in class. You can add those into J2 PDF and it loads them as a background. So it's a great way of using existing content that you're already using. We are going to have a quick look again at the library, but I just wanted to show you this J2E5 example because I had some children. My background is SEND, and I had a student on the spectrum who had a very special interest in jigsaws. So this would have been the answer to my prayers because I could have linked this into my thematic planning. So J2E5, we looked at earlier for our observations. It's a digital piece of blank paper. It's a really useful tool. What I can do is I can add any photo. So let's have a look. What have I got? So for example, maybe I'm doing some mini beasts in my planning that week. So I can make that photograph a bit bigger. And when I click on that photograph, I'm given different options along the right hand side here. And one of those is the convert to jigsaw option. So I can click that and you can see it's made it into a jigsaw. Other things I can do, I can make those pieces, I can increase them, so make them more, to make it a bigger puzzle, or less if I wanted to. I've got the option for scatter or solve. It's going to solve it for me. I've also got different buttons that I can add to that jigsaw. So I could have a scatter button, a solve button, and a hint. So the hint will add sort of a little ghost ladybird underneath. And then if I go to the view mode, I've now got a jigsaw ready to use. So this is just a great quick and easy activity that you can create, have it up on your interactive whiteboard or your panel or whatever it is that you're using in class. And I can hit scatter, and there we go. I can get pupils coming up and trying to solve that particular jigsaw. So this might be a class photograph. It might be the student's face. It may be the school playground, for example. So you could link this into anything. So that is creating a jigsaw in J2E5. And then just to go over again, the library. So this is a fantastic resource, full of content. So just to highlight some of these, so nursery, I search for nursery. You can also filter according to age. Unfortunately, we haven't got an age 3 to 4 button at the moment, but we are working on it. And there are loads of resources. So I think there's at least 100 resources for nursery. So things like colouring in activities, painting activities. There are some seasonal ones, so creating your own gingerbread house. So again, you could have this up on the board for the students to come up and have a go. And that hasn't opened it properly. If I go to view, I can drag any of these. We've also got a Christmas tree version, so they can drag their own Christmas decorations on. And it works brilliantly on a touchscreen device. Let's add some windows in there. And there we go. Okay. It removes, because it's J2E5, it removes all the buttons whilst they're in view mode. So again, there's less things for them to press for it to go horribly wrong. But if they did come up and do this as kind of a focused activity on the interactive whiteboard and they'd created their picture, you can go to edit and save that. That will save into your My Files. Obviously, if you wanted to have that in the pupil files, you'd then use that Move To button, and you could move that to your pupil's account for evidence. So that's just a very quick overview of the teacher creative resources that you might want to use with your students. Thinking about the library, we are always keen for suggestions, especially when it comes to nursery, because it isn't our area of expertise. We do have a nursery teacher on staff, and she has created a lot of that content. But I'm always keen to hear any library activity suggestions. So if you do have anything that you think would work well, but you don't know how to create it, just email me at nikki@j2e.com and I will see what I can create. Equally, if you have a pro forma that you want to use and you would like to have it in the library, you can email that to me and I can add that to the library if you want. Just be mindful of any identifiers in any activities. So just remember to take out things like school names if you did want to share any content. And then lastly, our contact details. So that is the Ed Team email, so edteam@j2e.com if you have any questions, if you need any support with anything. We are on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm wondering how long that's going to be called that, whether people are actually going to transfer to X or whether it's always going to be known as X, formerly known as Twitter. But anyway, I digress. So those are our names to search for. We do a lot of announcements, especially on Facebook, for sort of upcoming training and that kind of thing. We are on YouTube, so just to show this to you, we are Just2Easy TV. There we go, that's us. So we have a number of different videos. As I said, this mouse is driving me nuts. Tips and tricks, there is that QR code login, adding sound to J35, changing your site language. We've got some quick bites webinars, so if you want to know more about, for example, maybe using JIT Turtle, that is a 15-minute webinar. So it's quick and easy using JIT pictogram and chart. So there's lots of helpful content on our YouTube channel. And then very lastly, I haven't added this into my presentation, but we are delivering a huge amount of training this year. It can be found at just2easy.com/training. And there are various training sessions for beginners. So we've got introduction to the tool suite. All of these are recorded and added onto YouTube as well. So if you can't attend them, they will be recorded and available there. And as I said, 10th of October, there's a focus session on using JIT. We are delivering a session tomorrow just about the parent portal. So if you wanted to sort of point any colleagues in that direction, that is tomorrow. Making seasonal resources using Just2Easy. And there's also some linking to the key stages and various aspects of the curriculum. These are all free. You just need to click on these links and it will take you to a registration page delivered through Teams. So that's me, all done. Do we have any questions, or has there been anything that you haven't been able to answer, Julia?
We had the question about the progression frameworks for nurseries, and so I popped in there that Debbie was going to share that with us, and Debbie has now shared that with us, so that'll be sitting with the team able to pop that up. Brilliant. And I don't think it takes you guys long, does it, to add that in, because it's all in that spreadsheet?
No, they can do it pretty much in a day. So yeah, as long as we've got the CSV file or the Excel file, they can get it really quickly. Perfect.
I did pop a comment in the chat when you were speaking about the messaging service and how parents can't message you back on that. That's basically to protect your staff. But parents will be able to comment on pupils' individual work. That's right, isn't it? So anything that's shared, they can then join in that learning conversation.
Yes, yes, they can.
Yeah. And so making your parents aware that they can comment on the children's pieces of work, and then the teacher can see that, or your practitioners can see that, and the children can see that as well. That keeps it all nice and positive. So yeah, I'll pop that in too. And then I was going to talk to you about how you can get your pupils added. So we know that preschool pupils can get Glow usernames, but we weren't sure about your anti-preschool pupils. And we know that you're not going to want to have half of your learners using one product and then your other half using another product. You want that to be standard across your setting. So we're in the middle of trialing the use of a CSV file. So basically it's an Excel spreadsheet which you're going to add all your pupils' details to. So we're going to produce guidance on how you can fill that in, because the CSV file is set up so there's a lot of information goes in, but we don't want you to add in all of that information. So we're wanting you to share the first name of the pupil and then the first letter of their surname. And there'll be some other little bits and pieces which won't be identifiers. And then what you'll do is you'll password protect it and you'll send it to myself or Jim, who can then get that, get your setting set up. So we'll get that done as soon as we can so that we can send it out to you. we would get you to put both your preschool and your anti-preschool pupils onto that, rather than pulling through your preschool pupils from Glow. It just means that you're all in the one setting together. So if you've got Dunnottar Nursery, all your preschool and anti-preschool will be within Dunnottar Nursery, rather than your anti-preschool being within Dunnottar Nursery and your preschool being within Dunnottar School. I hope that makes sense. I hope I've explained that okay. It sounds a bit as clear as mud, but we will produce guidance for you so that it is straightforward. So I hope that clears up any questions that you might have on that side, because I know that there were some settings you had questions about that before. I see Debbie's putting something. Yep. Purple folders are okay, Debbie. So the green folders are ones that are pulled through from CMIS, and then the purple folders are ones that you create yourself, okay, within Just2Easy. The one thing that you've got to be careful about with your purple folders is don't have any / within your purple folders, because we found that was creating some issues with schools. So just use like a dash instead of a / if that's how you're wanting to set things up. So for example, within the schools, we had composite classes who were saying P1 to 4, and they would do P1 and then a / and then a 4, and that was kind of mucking everything up. But if you use a dash, it's okay. Got another question. Okay, thumbs up. Cool. Any other questions from anybody? You can take yourselves off mute. There's a lot to take in there. There are on the videos, because I know comments we've had before was like, oh, there's an awful lot of tools within the suite. Until I learn how to use all of them, or if I just want to use some of them, can I take other ones off? There is a video for that on the Just2Easy TV to show you how you can tidy up your suite of tools a little bit, so you've just got the ones that you want to use in there. Okay. I think Debbie's typing something. You could just take yourself off mute, Debbie, if it's easier.
I was just wondering if there was anything forward from using like an interactive form as your format for your observation. You know, we spoke about having a Word template set up, but the more I was thinking about it, being able to just type into boxes on a Word form would be like, that would be excellent, but I'm not sure if that's possible.
You can make the Word documents collaborative. Is that what you mean, sort of for multiple people to add into?
No, I mean, like, you know how we'd spoken about me putting boxes and making a Word document that said basically put this text here and that text there. Is it possible to do that as an actual interactive form so that you click in the box and you just type in the box within the Word document?
Not within our J2 writer, which is Word. That's why I would potentially recommend using J2E5. But what you can do is you can, and it's a bit long-winded, I'm actually doing a video about it at the moment. You can convert your Word documents into PDFs and then import it into J2 PDF, which means you get the full functionality of J2E5. So you can then just click in a box and just type, or you can just click in a box and add in a photo. So I am doing a video, so hopefully that will be up by next week.
Brilliant, because I think that's what I'm looking for, so that the staff can just open up the PDF then and click in and add what they need to where it needs to be added, and then just upload that form to each child.
Well, Debbie, if you pop down your email, if you don't mind, in the chat, I can do you just a very quick tutorial about how to change those Word documents to PDF. I have to, when I create the help videos, they have to be in a certain format with all sorts of flying and things. But if you don't mind me just talking you through it, I can send you a video in the next half hour or so.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Nikki.
You're very welcome. Any other questions?
Nothing else coming through. So I'll stop the recording.
Oh.
And hopefully everybody's found that really useful.